Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, and I felt like making a video talking about, you know, Toy Story 3, me when I saw Toy Story 3 in theaters, that kind of stuff. And yeah, and of course, today is the 10th anniversary of Toy Story 3. Man, 10 years since Toy Story 3. Just, yeah, and hey, I remember seeing it in theaters. Believe me, because I'm sure some of you would remember seeing it in theaters too. Toy Story 3, it's a fantastic, it's really great, and especially for it being the second sequel to Toy Story, because as we all know, Toy Story was the first ever computer animated feature ever, and for it to have a sequel, its sequel was the first ever sequel to a computer animated feature, which being Toy Story. And for it having a second sequel, sometimes with movies, sometimes, sequels to movies can sometimes be good and sometimes be bad, mostly because, say, with a movie's second sequel, after its first sequel, yeah, sometimes it can be kind of bad and such, But for Toy Story 3, it proved wrong, because, the Toy Story 3 is just amazing. Everything about it is just fantastic. And I remember seeing Toy Story 3 when it came out, actually, because if you guys remember this, I think over a year before Toy Story 3 had come out, Disney did this. They had released both the first two Toy Story films back into theaters, but this time in 3D. And remember, because we watched the first Toy Story film, and then after the first one finished, there'd be a little break and such. You can refill you can get more popcorn or a drink and go to the bathroom, And during that, I remember they actually had they'd played a few games and played a couple of Toy Story treats, during the break and such. For those who didn't leave the room, if you get what I'm saying. Another thing to put, they had an intermission. They kind of had an intermission, just a different type of style of intermission, or however, it's Toy Story, so what can you expect? And of course, the second film played, and if I remember correctly, I guess there was something at the end after all the two films wrapped up. It's until Toy Story 3, or I don't know. But I remember seeing Toy Story 3 in theaters, and that, how with movies when they show movies in 3D, they'll show that thing, please put 3D glasses on, up popped Woody and Buzz holding 3D glasses, if I remember correctly. That's what it was. And Toy Story 3, because it was, it's amazing, from the characters that we all know and love, from Woody, Buzz, and Jessie, Mr. Potato Head, Rex, Ham, Bullseye, everybody else. And with the new toys, because, you have Sunnyside Daycare, and you have the toys in Sunnyside Daycare. You have Lotso Huggin' Bear, but his friends would like to call him Lotso. You have Big Baby, you have Chunk, you have Twitch, you have Sparks, you have Ken, in which Barbie and Ken fall for each other, and there's the Bookworm, and then we come to, of course, Bonnie, and, her toys, from Mr. Pricklepants, Buttercup, Trixie, Dolly, Peas in the Pod, and what's-his-face, from the Hayao Miyazaki film, My Neighbor, if I'm saying that right, and, of course, Chuckles, which he knew about Lotso, and apparently Woody gets word from the toys that, Sunnyside is a place of ruin and despair, ruled by an evil bear who smells of strawberries. And of course, the toys back at daycare realize that Lotso's just evil and is holding them hostage, and basically holding them as prisoners, We need toys in our caterpillar room, So yeah, just Lotso is evil, and I love Lotso. He's a really great villain, he'd have to be my number 5 favorite Disney Pixar villain, and also because with Ken and Barbie, because I love how when Ken tells Lotso, Barbie, wait, don't do this, Lotso. She's a Barbie doll, Ken. There's 100 million of her just like her, and what Ken says, not to me, there's not. It shows because Ken really does love that Barbie, and of course the Barbie that was with Woody and the gang, and like Lotso, fine, then why don't you join them? So yeah, and of course, I obviously, of course, have to talk about that, that furnace scene, Of course, it's a very touching scene right there, all the toys holding hands. And of course, the LGMs, short for the Little Green Men, they come and save the day, the Claw, it's really good. They're the heroes. They're the heroes, at the end of the film. Of course, Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head, you saved our lives and we are eternally grateful, and Mr. Potato Head accepts them as his adopted kids, my babies, daddy. And if you guys remember that Sid Phillips, he made a cameo in that, and voiced by the original voice of Sid, that is. You have him, and you have John Morris, who voiced young Andy in the first 2 Toy Story films. He returns as teenage Andy, and I remember because from the behind the scenes, and according to director Leon Cridge, because they had a hard time trying to reach out to John Morris. They tried calling him on his phone number, and they tried to reach him from his answering machine, and they did get him. And when they heard his voice, like Leon Cridge said, hallelujah, he sounds great. He sounds like, Andy, years later and such, how Andy would sound. And of course, talk about the ending to the film. Of course, it's another touching scene. Andy gives his toys to Bonnie, and that, he trusts Bonnie, and also what Woody experienced, when Bonnie took Woody, and his experience with Bonnie and how she plays with her toys, and Woody, informed Andy about that, because, remember, he writes a note and such, and that's when Andy says, someone told me you're good with toys, Woody let Andy know, basically. And, Andy and Bonnie, they have a little bit of playtime, but right before Andy leaves college, the last words that Andy gives, thanks, guys, and is a bit teary-eyed. And then as he drives off, Woody just looks out to the car and like, so long, partner. And, now they're with Bonnie, etc. And, of course, the camera pans up after, as Woody introduced Buzz and the rest of the toys to Bonnie's toys. Oh, Buzz, you haven't met the rest of the guys. The camera pans up, it shows the clouds, in which the shape of the clouds resemble the clouds from Andy's room, the wall printing, and the movie fades to black, and it's just it's fantastic. I gotta say, because everything about Toy Story 3 is fantastic, and I mean, I had a great time seeing it in theaters. I'm sure some of you did too. And of course, remember, because the epilogue and the end and the end credits, and with the sequence, of montage of scenes, of the toys, Bonnie's house, and what's going on at daycare. Like Ken and Barbie, they've taken over Sunnyside and made it groovy and such, But yeah, and of course Spanish Buzz. We all remember Spanish Buzz, of course. Yeah, and that Spanish version of You Got a Friend of Me, it's pretty good and very catchy, how the way it's done and such, Ay, una ni guen ni, si una ni guen ni, But, yeah, Toy Story 3, just hard to believe, 10 years since, Toy Story 3 had came out, and again, I have a bit of good memory of seeing it in theaters, and you guys share your thoughts and your experience of seeing Toy Story 3, because for me, what I've established in this video, you know, it's, you know, Toy Story 3, it's fantastic, you know. Everything about that, and with the Toy Story franchise, is amazing, fantastic, you know. But anyway, so with all that said, happy 10th anniversary, Toy Story 3. A great film, and for you being a second sequel to Toy Story, just a really great film. So again, with that said, again, happy 10th anniversary, Toy Story 3. Hope you enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, peace out, and to infinity and beyond.